Hey, what up? Tim Werner here, giving you a lesson on using GitHub Copilot in the CLI. Now, CLI means the GitHub CLI. The idea here is you can reach out from your terminal, your shell. Just to set the context here, may be difficult to see. I'm in Windows 11 here. I've got a Windows terminal and I've got PowerShell up and running here. I'm in a PowerShell session despite what you think here. What you're seeing as I type here, I was going to have PowerShell give me a version rundown. Notice that I'm getting completions directly, which I'll use the right arrow key to jump to and then check where I'm at. Okay, anyway, that's fine. So the two requirements for, the two requirements or prerequisites for using the GitHub Copilot in the CLI is number one, you need a license for GitHub Copilot, which is going to be through your GitHub account. And then number two, you need to install the GitHub CLI, which is free and open source at GitHub. I believe, double check me on that, but I'm pretty sure the CLI itself is FOSS at GitHub. But anyway, I've already installed that on this machine. And again, as I start to type, I'm seeing auth status as a suggestion from GitHub Copilot. That actually is a recent command. So I can only presume that we're giving GitHub Copilot the ability to see our command buffer. I don't know how I feel about that from a security standpoint. Now, I don't know. Let's see. But anyway, after you've installed the GitHub CLI, we can, again, verify that it's here. I've got the latest release, stable release as of this recording on June 25th, 2024. Now, what can you do with the GitHub CLI? It's actually very, very useful. Throw on a --help to step into it. And as you can see here, gh issue, create, gh repo, clone. So similarly, very similar actually, to how the Azure CLI and the AWS CLI and basically all these CLIs that cross different operating system environments where you've got the non-interactive command invocation or the executable, and then you've got the context and then some kind of operation and parameters. And you can always throw on the --help even at the sub-command level. Now that's all just specific to GitHub CLI. And actually, you're going to want to make sure that you run git ghauth login. And as you can see, again, we're seeing I've done this recently, so I'll use the right arrow key to jump forward to the end of that line. So this is how you'll sign in to GitHub. And as long as you have a GitHub Copilot license, you'll begin to make use of the service live while you type, as you've noticed, as well as what I'm about to show you here. I had to move something on my other monitor. Well, at this point, let's assume that you just installed the CLI. You need to understand that GitHub CLI uses an extension model similar to how Visual Studio Code does and how browsers do and just about any application does nowadays. So there's a context called extension, as you can see here, and we can do install, and there's the actual path, GitHub /gh-copilot for the extension. And you can also do, let's see, an extension, is it list? Yes, to see what you have, and you can update your extensions. Now, how did I learn some of these fancy commands? I actually was using some of these completions that would come up as you see as I type, but once I installed the GH Copilot extension, we now have a new context here. And I'm going to throw in a --help, and let's take a close look at this. It's called your AI Command Line Copilot. And there's 4 commands as of, again, we're at the end of June 2024. We're going to run config together to make sure we're squared up on our options. We'll look at the 2 main workhorse commands. There's explain and suggest, which makes sense because when you're in GitHub Copilot in your code editor, aren't you doing one or the other of those things? You're asking for an explain or for a fix, or you're asking it to do a question using your prompt, you see? So that's cool. I'm going to do, as I said, GH Copilot config, and let's see what that does. Now, you'll notice that the interface, it might take you a little bit by surprise at first. I don't know what you were expecting. Frankly, I'm not sure what I was expecting when I first saw this, but I'm going to give you a tip. You can use your arrow. I'm going up arrow, down arrow, but also what I've started doing recently is the type to filter. It's so much faster that eventually you don't mind these text menus because you can zip through them so quickly. And so for config, we can either do optional usage analytics or default value for confirming command execution. I'm going to type DEF enter. Default when asked to confirm execution of a generated suggestion, use arrow. I'm going to say Y enter. EX enter to exit. And I don't know, I think we're back. I can't tell. My terminal is a little bit bugged, as you can tell. It's overwriting all sorts of stuff on my screen. Oh boy. Well, through the magic of video editing, I'm back in business here, I think. So anyway, you see what we're doing here? So the idea is as you're working, and the three main environments at this, as of this recording, where GitHub Copilot for CLI is useful, is for general purpose shell commands, like bash commands. It could be it can give us some help with other shell languages and PowerShell and stuff. We'll try that. And I forgot what I was going to say, so I guess I'll just continue. So GH Copilot, how about a suggest? So as we start to type SU, we get, this is a completion that is suggesting update all GitHub CLI extensions. That's kind of cool. So in this case, you might just have an ad hoc question. How do I do such and so? Now watch this. When you hit enter, the three types of commands are generic shell, GH, and git. Now, in my testing thus far, I've been doing the GH command. In other words, the GitHub CLI almost exclusively because I've challenged myself to become more proficient with the GitHub CLI. I'm curious personally about the generic shell command, what's supported. I assume bash, but also I'm wondering if PowerShell common scripting languages are included. Notice the other option is for git. So I'm going to type GH enter. And it gives us a suggestion. And here, again, this is something that you'll find that you'll develop muscle memory on pretty quickly if you keep using it long enough, that instead of using the arrow keys to navigate, you're just seeing. And in this case, you've got explain, execute, revise, and rate. I'm going to try explain. So EXPL enter. And it goes through, it's fine. We're not looking at this necessarily as a full replacement for our trusty search engine, but I like the idea that while you are in a terminal, you're not necessarily anchored in one or more script files. You're doing ad hoc work and you're like, what was that git command? And it's right at the tip of your tongue. The idea is we can ask the AI using natural language. In fact, I'm going to try that next. But for now, we're in the middle of this particular proposed command. I've done an explain. What happens if you execute? I'm going to do EXE enter. And you'll notice here that, well, it says without using these flags, suggested command. Okay, well, what that's saying is that the default behavior, and I like this a lot, does not auto-execute the command. It just puts it into the clipboard. Now, quite candidly, I'm thinking, wait a minute, when we did the GH Copilot config, wasn't one of the questions about confirmation? And I wanted confirmation to be yes. Maybe when you answer yes to that config question, it puts when you do an execute command, it does the clipboard loading, which I like because now I can do a Control V and it'll throw that down. And now I can press enter. Now, again, I'm seeing in this case, it bombed out saying unknown flag. What does this remind us of? You know what I'm going to say. And it's a lecture that I've given about GitHub Copilot quite a bit, actually, in the last little bit. And that is the AI sometimes make mistakes. That's the marketing way to say that the AI sometimes just face plants. And still, in its effort to try to give you something rather than nothing, it may hallucinate and give you false information. And that's very disappointing, obviously, whenever that happens. Not necessarily saying that's what's happening here, but at any rate, let's do a CLS. Now, I wanted again to do a Copilot suggest. I haven't played around with the quotes. I noticed that you do need to quote your free text prompt, and that should make sense. Whether it's single or double works, and that's what I've gotten used to, so that's what I'm going to do. So what if it were a git command? Now, I think from the tutorials that GitHub publishes, it's expecting when you do a suggest, it may not expect a free text prompt. It might be better like if I gave it my best approach at my goal. So I would suggest that you try that both ways. If you're wrestling with a git command and you're partially there, throw at it what you have. Otherwise, what I'm going to try now is just a free text git command to view my commits from, let's say, September 15th, 2023. And again, the quotes are important here to bound my prompt. Let's send that in. Again, the standard reply is what specifically are you doing? I'm going to verify with GIT, enter. Hey, that's actually quite nice, isn't it? And then again, the idea is we can do an explain right from here, EX enter. And we know we'll revise. Let's try that one. Revise command. How should this be revised? Okay. How can we make this? How about we say, I'm not sure if I should use quotes or not. Let's change the time to between September 15th and September 30th, 2023. I'm just thinking of these things on the fly. Okay, suggestion not readily available. All right, well, please revise. What could have gone wrong there? Maybe, did it not like my quotes? I wouldn't think that would be an issue. I'm not sure, of course. I have no idea. But notice we've got rate. I'm going to type rate and press enter and say N for no. And then to navigate the menu, I'm again going to try to use the keyboard. In this case, it was unhelpful for sure. I pressed the space bar, enter. How could we improve this response? I don't feel like responding. I'm going to enter. Do you wish to be contacted? Sure. Why? And then it, failed to send detailed. Well, look, you and I know what's going on here. I've said it in every one of my YouTube videos for the last month. Early days. So I don't hold this against the dev team. Of course not. But, we are early days, and I will never get off my hobby horse that I'm riding, that by you embracing generative AI now and getting proficient with it now from as many aspects as possible, that is to say, as the prompter or the prompt engineer, so to speak, but also maybe tapping in a little bit, how do REST APIs work? If you're not a developer, Gen AI may lead you into more developer-y or DevOps directions. Likewise, if you're a developer, you might want to look more at infrastructure as code with the help of generative AI and see where that goes. See if that doesn't make your career more future-proof. It's using AI as a stepping stool, or, enough lecturing and pontificating from me. I'll call that done. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you.